Like there's a great project dropping like every other week. It's insane. What's going on? Like the fans want the music, and then the momentum fades away, and when it drops, like no one's really checking for it anymore. I feel like superstars are made. That kind of hurt me sometimes. I'm just like, he's like, who wants to hear like a 40-year-old rap? And I'm like, I do. you
A
know?
Weekend hater, personally.
Really? I'm curious. Why?
She is-
Pain and Demon Slaying Kid Cudi. To me, that's a classic. To me, that's his best project.
Welcome to the Sound Centric Podcast. I am your host, Adam Dash, and we are back with our second time guest, Elsie. Welcome back to the platform.
Hi, thank you for having me for a second time.
Of course. No, we're getting to the point where we have people who are common guests in the show. That's the goal. So we get the audience playing, oh, it's another Elsie episode. Let's get it.
Right? Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So we were on a recent Twitter Spaces where we kind of talked about this, but it's been a few weeks. It's a nice summer going on right now. We get some great music dropping. Honestly, probably the craziest year of music I've ever experienced.
Crazy, like for us, like an active, like tapped in person. Yes, this is definitely crazy. Like there's a great project dropping like every other week. It's insane.
I mean, we've had Cole, Kendrick, Drake, Eminem's dropping Friday, so it'll be out by the time this comes out.
Okay.
All the legends. But
Right? Everyone's just
what has been filling your playlist? What's been keeping the summer upbeat? What are we bumping?
Okay, so what I've been listening to, honestly, like I've had some albums that I've just like kind of felt trapped in just because like they've like really just like overwhelmed my rotation. Like Dark Times by Vince Staples, I've had it on repeat since it dropped. It's just, I just keep going back to it. I've been trying to get over it for like months now to move on to something else, but like it just keeps like fighting with my rotation. Of course, the No Worries project, like
Yes,
one of
Lord.
my favorite. Like it's almost my album of the year. I've been listening to the new Devin Malik. I feel like that's a really like
I'll have to tap
exciting
into that one.
upbeat energy. Yeah, you really should tap in. That's really
Is
good.
is he the TDE guy? Oh, it's like the tuxedo.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yes.
he was on Schoolboy Q's Blue Lips. He produced some songs and also was featured on some songs. And I've loved the album. I just like the energy that he brings. There's a new album by this producer called Esta. It's just another album that
Okay.
I've been able to put down. K Tronada too. I don't know, it's just been so much. Even Charlie XCX, like I've been listening a lot to Brad as well. There's just so much that just dropped. It's so hard to keep track. I try to put everything in one playlist, and it's just a lot of music.
Yeah, it's a great problem to have, what we're
It is a
experiencing right
great
now.
problem,
I mean,
especially for like us in the music space. It is a great problem
yeah.
to have.
I mean, Vince just dropped a video today. What song was that for?
That was for a children's song. Yeah, I saw that and I'm like, okay, fine. But he's not dropping like full videos. He's doing like just tiny snippets,
Yeah.
like 30 seconds to 1 minute. I don't know why, but I love to see some full length like concepts.
Yeah, I
For
feel
his,
like he's such an interesting mindset about how he goes about his content. I feel like
right?
he thinks he's like, maybe he feels like he's better than it. He's like, I don't need to make music videos. I got
It's
it.
crazy because even for his album, like he didn't do like a whole rollout. He's just like, I'm dropping my album, just dropped it. Like no fanfare, nothing crazy. Just announced it and dropped it. Like in his interview with Apple Music, he's like, I don't see the point of making fans wait if I have a project. Like I'm just gonna drop it anyways.
I mean, I'll respect that over like the whole Rich the Kid thing. He's like, he's like, I honestly have no clue when this album's dropping. Then he's like, wait, Kanye's retiring. I don't know what's going on.
Honestly, I don't like when people like tease something for too long, like music. Like I'd rather like you announce it and in a few months at most, like wrap it up and drop. Like I just don't like being teased for too long.
I feel you. When I've had this convo on here before about you shouldn't tease music unless it's ready to drop. Like if you know the sample's not cleared yet, like why tease it and then be like, oh, it's never dropping, or posting
Yeah.
the little TikTok and you're like, oh, the label is not ready to put this out for 6 months.
Exactly.
And it's like
That's
we're gonna
even
get,
the one that's always like when they tease music and they're like, "Oh, my label is not letting me drop this." It's like, what's going on? Like the fans want the music, and then the momentum fades away, and when it drops, like no one's really checking for it anymore.
it's
It's
such
sad.
a small window. But on the other hand,
right?
if Eminem is promoting his project and rolling it out, you can do a rollout too.
Like, true, that's true. But it's Eminem. Like, I feel like Eminem likes, he likes the whole like fanfare thing. He's
Yeah.
always been like a very extra artist.
hmm
So I think a rollout is natural for like an artist like Eminem.
I mean, Tyler the Creator was talking about it with oh, why am I blanking on his name? Not, you know, I'm talking about the Omar Apollo. Omar Apollo.
I
He's like, bro, you have a hit song, like promote it. Like you're not too cool to promote stuff. I think artists get in that lane because it's embarrassing to promote stuff. As people make content, it can be a little like,
For me, like I just feel like if I spend a lot of time and energy on a project, like I'm gonna promote the hell out of it. Like, because I spend a lot of time, energy, money,
yeah,
like that is definitely getting promoted. It's
yeah.
definitely getting promoted.
I mean, you got to be your biggest supporter before you expect people to just go online and start supporting you.
Exactly. Even if it's just like a tweeting about it, like guys, my album drop, go listen. I don't believe in like the whole overly mysterious act where you don't even post
Hate
your
it.
own music. It's like, what's the point?
I hate it. I think it's an excuse artists use to not make content. They're like, I don't want to give the world everything about me. No one's asking for that. Just like show me you cared about what you made, and like maybe show me your outside interest a little bit. Like, oh, you like basketball? Cool. Like, I'm a basketball fan. It's cool seeing West Side Gun tweet about wrestling and like
All the
stuff like
time.
that. There's a
All the
lot.
time. Yeah.
And speaking of Gun, I mean, Griselda's had a little bit of a slow year, maybe year and a half of like me not loving the projects, but the new Boldy James project with Conductor,
New
I love
Boldy
it.
is good with Conductor. Yes, I agree. Like it's been really good. The new Conway, it was okay. Like I had some songs I really liked on there, but like the project as a whole, I wasn't a crazy fan of it. I just thought it was just I thought it was good music, but I didn't think it was anything like revolutionary or anything like really crazy. It was just okay. But West Side Gun might drop something this year,
Yeah,
so we'll see. We'll see about that.
yeah.
We'll see if he's gonna be like, the redeeming figure. He's the biggest, I think. So we'll
I
see
didn't
how
love
that
I
goes.
didn't love like the trap beat type songs that were in the last project. I respect that he's like trying to branch out of just like the boom bap, very Alchemist Derringer type beats. But I don't know.
He did that with the last project and then You Pray for Me, and I feel like it worked out. But if I'm gonna be honest, what I like as a fan of West Side Gun, like I like those
Yeah.
soul samples, like the drumless beats. I just feel like he has a different pocket on top beats like that, and I just feel like it'd be a disservice if he just stops tapping into, that sound. Because I love that sound so much.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing where like, some artists are kind of put in this corner, but in like a good way. Like they have such a signature sound that's like we love you for this,
Exactly.
and then someone like Tyler the Creator, you're like, if this sounds the same, I'll be disappointed. Like I expect you to change everything about this.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a case by case thing because, like, to be honest, like for West Side Gun, like I love the pocket he's in so much. Like I wouldn't mind getting albums and albums and albums, but like, and I feel like it's a gift to be able to pull it off and not sound like extremely repetitive. But some other artists can't pull like being in the same pocket off. Like
Yeah.
everyone's just gonna be like, switch it up, please. Like, we don't want to hear the same thing again.
But I now want to get into first off, congratulations on your new TV show,
Oh,
Revolt,
thank you.
on off the record. How did that come together?
Honestly, like I didn't expect it to be what it was. When I first got the email from Revolt, like I really just thought it was just gonna be like maybe just handle something for your socials. Like I did not think it was gonna be production on this level, but they hit me up and they were just like, Revolt originally started out as a music thing, and they said for years they branched away from that, and they were just like focusing on like pop culture, and they were just looking for someone to bring back like music conversations and everything, and it was a work in progress. It is still a work in progress. I still feel like there's a lot we still have to tweak about the show. It's not perfect yet, but I like the fact that they've kind of given me a platform and the tools to kind of produce something and talk about music, and that's really where we are right now. We're still trying to figure out the show. It's still in its very early stages, but I feel like it could become something really cool.
How was it like first advertised to you? They're like, this is what we're looking for.
That's what I'm saying. Like at first it was just like we want someone to talk about music. Like we're
Okay.
looking for someone to talk about it. We've seen your content. We feel like you could talk about music, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like I did not think it was gonna be like a show. Like I thought it was gonna be like making some pieces of content to maybe go on their Twitter, like on their Instagram, just like random little videos, 1 or 2 minutes here and there. But they're like, no, we actually want like something at least 5 minutes all the time. It's gonna live on YouTube. I'm like, oh, okay, this is serious. And then so it's like, okay, show. We started brainstorming names, and it's like, okay, off the record, and it's like, okay, I like that name. Let's work with it. Let's see what it could be. So I kind of saw it as just like potential because I've always wanted to do something like that. But to be honest, running like a show is like if you don't have a crazy budget, it's not easy at all.
For the show, are you doing all the research and script writing, or is now there people that are helping you with that?
I just had someone join in just very recently. So upcoming episodes, we're gonna have someone also helping me along with that. It was really just me. I like the fact that I do have creative freedom to kind of pick like the topics that we talk about. So really is me right now kind of doing most of it. I have someone helping with editing, but when it comes to like script writing, everything has been me so far. But I have someone joining me, which I'm excited about because sometimes you might just need someone else to just like another point of view. So I'm really excited about that.
And then when it comes to your interviews, you recently did ScHoolboy Q, obviously, ravyn lenae today. And I'm sure you're very similar to me where when you're interviewing someone, you want to hit them with questions that they haven't been asked before. You kind of want to nardwar them a little bit so they're like, all right, Sean Evans them. Like, that was a good question. So what has been your process with these big time interviews? What is your research process?
Yeah, so like honestly, a lot of times, like I figured that, especially when you get like bigger names, you have like very limited time to prepare. And one thing I always make sure of, I never want to be caught off guard. Like I never want the artist to reference something in their music, and I'm just like, what is that? So I always like go into their discography and like just dive into it. I spend like a few days to a week to a few weeks, depending on how much time I have, and I just do like a crazy deep dive. Like I remember when I was preparing for like ScHoolboy Q's interview. I listened to like all his like it was the only thing I listened to for like weeks, just like making sure like if he references any little thing, I know that I'm gonna catch it. So it involves me really diving deep into their discography. Secondly, I watched their interviews that they've had with other people.
Yeah.
Sometimes because like one thing I've realized, sometimes some artists don't like being asked like the same question over and over and over and over again, even if like for example with ScHoolboy Q, like a lot of people always ask him like, oh, why do you capitalize your H, like your H, letter H? And like I was just like, I don't want to be the same person to ask him that question. Or I always gauge like his reply to some questions that people have asked him in the past, so you kind of know what topics to kind of stay away from if you know it might have a tendency to kind of like upset the artist or offend the artist. So I spent a lot of time like watching a lot of your interviews to kind of get into their psyche. It kind of gives you an idea of the vibe you're gonna get with the artist. So watching their interviews is key. Like I watch the interviews over and over and over again just to kind of give an idea. And then I ask myself finally, like, if I'm a fan of this artist and I see their interview come up, like, what would I want to hear? Like, what questions would I want to hear someone else ask this artist? And then that's where I go from, because like that's why like there's a question I asked ScHoolboy Q, and I asked him, I was like, do you ever feel like you're underrated? And I really wanted to ask that question because I'm just like, as a fan, like I feel like not enough people give him his props, especially for someone that has put out so much solid project. And it's that mentality that I try to like keep on. I'm just like, I want to ask questions. I want the artist to feel like, yeah, she's actually a fan of the music, So I try to do as much, like research is key, really. Just do as much research as possible so you could be prepared.
I feel that. And there's a famous interview with The Breakfast Club and Nicki Minaj where she's like, you guys didn't even listen to the album. She's like, you only listened to the single. And she's like, what's your favorite song on the album? And I always keep that.
Exactly. Like you never want to be caught off guard like that because it's just not a good look.
So in the interview, Raven mentioned how she woke up one morning and she's like, "Damn, are superstars made or are they born?" And I think it's definitely a little middle ground in there. But what are your thoughts on that debate?
I feel like superstars are made because like I just feel like there's no matter like how much talent you have, there's no one that just comes out the door swinging. Like there's it never happens because like let's take Michael Jackson for example. Like he came out and he was like this child star, you know, everyone just liked him, cute little Michael. And then if you listen to his interviews, he went through this phase where like you're no longer a child and like you're struggling to gain that identity. He was like, a lot of people be like, where's little Michael? And they'd see like a 16-year-old teenage boy and they would be
Yeah.
like, oh, like, we don't want to see you. So like, he intentionally went back and like went into a certain vibe and made Off the Wall. And even that was like, okay, it was a good album. It was actually a great album, was critically acclaimed. But if you see the mental difference between Off the Wall and Thriller, within that space was when the superstar, like icon Michael was born. And I feel like an artist has to enter that mentality before that happens. That I feel like that's the biggest difference. I feel like superstars have a different drive, and like you could be born with like the talent. Like I feel like there's so many artists that have the talent to be superstars, but like only very few get there because it's a mentality thing. I was watching this interview by Will Smith. He was like the difference between like an A student and a B student is like crazy. Like it's way farther than the difference between a B student and a C student. And I feel like when you look at artists like Beyonce and you see like the work ethic, like superstars are definitely made. I think some people are born with an advantage. Like you have a voice like Beyonce, like obviously like it's God-given talent, but like you got to put in the work. I feel like it's
Yeah.
made. What do you think?
I definitely think they're made and not born. I think there's the people who have that maybe slight narcissism, like a Kanye West, where they're like, I will be great, or maybe like Lady Gaga growing up, she's like, I'm
Yeah.
going to be a superstar, and they have that like
You know,
fake
yeah,
mentality, but it pushes them through. I think
it does.
it seems like most musicians don't enjoy being famous, so they don't even want to be stars. Like most people are like, I miss going out, and they hate that mentality. So to become that person, you have to put that life behind
You
you and
got to
be
put
like,
that to
I'm
the
not a
side.
normal person anymore.
And honestly, I feel like even that comes for like creating content. Cause like, you know, a lot of people always ask me, they're like, you know, do you ever feel sometimes when you get in front of the camera, like you're like, do you ever feel like, oh, it's corny? You know, some people are very like, and rightfully so. People are very concerned with like
Yeah.
public perception, how people perceive them. Like, I don't want people to call me corny. I don't want people to call me this or that. And because of that, like, they can't create content. I feel like if you actually want to do anything that's going to put you in the public eye, there's a part of your brain that you just have to switch off. Like, you just have to be like, I
Yeah.
don't care when it comes to this and just get it done. You know?
I live
Yeah.
by like everything's corny until it's successful, and then people are like, "Oh my God, how did you get? That's so cool that this is cool. This podcast you do is awesome now. Now you've
Yeah.
10,000 streams per episode."
Exactly. I just feel like it requires a certain drive because I remember like in the interview I also asked Raven, I'm like, are you content with being like just like known for your music, like, just resonating with like, you know, the people that know you, or like do you ever crave like that superstardom where like you just want to be like, you know, a Beyonce? And she was like, a part of her craves that, but another part of her is like how much her life would change if that happened. And I feel like that's really like, you know, it's a fear sometimes. Like even when people recognize me sometimes in public, I'm like, whoa, you know, it's a little scary sometimes.
Yeah, and to your point earlier, I was debating someone about this with Frank Ocean. They're like, "Why would Frank Ocean drop a new album when everyone on Twitter's gonna say it's mid?" And I'm like, if Frank Ocean cares what fake people, like everyone on this social media is fake. They're not real people. So if he's gonna base him releasing more work based on the 13-year-old kid being like mid, then like what are we doing here? Like you can't base
Yeah.
your life decision on fake human beings on social media.
Yeah. I genuinely think like even when it comes to Frank, I just think it's a personal choice. I just believe that any artist that's put out music, like if you're actually holding on to like your art or your content because you're like people are gonna be like mid, like nah, that's just not it's not a mentality to have, in my opinion.
It's awful. And it's like Andre 3000's like people aren't gonna like it. Like, bro, you're not trying to
That kind
impress
of hurt
the
me,
eight.
you know. That kind of hurt me sometimes. I'm just like, he's like, who wants to hear like a 40-year-old rap? And I'm like, I do. You know, I want to hear you rap, but like, I guess, you know.
And I also had that debate literally this week in a music group chat of people where they were saying they're like, we don't want to hear older people rap. And there was a funny video of T-Pain performing at a concert going crazy, and people are
I
like,
saw that one.
that's so awesome that T-Pain's doing that at his old age. And I'm
And
like,
he's like in his 30s. It's like, what? Like,
and I've seen rock shows like the Rolling Stones, and these people are going hard at 80 years old. My dad
mhm.
saw like Neil Diamond recently. Like these people are still going hard, and hip hop hasn't been old enough yet for us to see people
Exactly,
get to that point.
exactly. I
And
feel like that's the reason. I feel like once we start seeing like artists like age, like we're starting to see an older generation with
mhm.
artists like Jay-Z and like Snoop Dogg. And like Snoop Dogg is still like performing. He just went on tour like recently. And I think starting to see more artists like on he's not old, but let's just look at Kendrick for example. Like he's reaching a new peak and he's like what 37, you know, like and this is like a new peak and era in his career and I just hope that seeing just more of this, you know, just as we see more artists age with hip hop, I think the mentality is going to shift. It's going to
Yeah,
shift a
like
lot.
we don't need any more retirement albums. Like you don't like I hate that like J. Cole's retirement album. Like, bro, you're 37. Like you can make an album when you're
Why are
50.
you
Like
retiring? Like you like exactly like because like when I was talking to Schoolboy Q, he was like he has 50 more albums to make, and I was like, yes, that's the mentality that we need. Like, if you can still rap, why not? Like, why not? If you still have the skill, why not? You know.
yeah, and I saw Wu-Tang in the O2 Arena in London sell out. I mean, 50 Cent just sold out from an album that came out 20 years ago.
Hmm.
He's still going.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. So
I would like my rappers to keep going with age, and I
same.
don't think there's any reason to retire right
As
now.
long as you feel like you could still deliver like good music, why not? Like if you feel like you've reached a point where you don't have any, you know, inspiration anymore, you don't have any drive, then okay. I mean, that's cool. I respect it. But like just to be like, "Oh, I still have drive, inspiration, but I don't know if people want to hear this." Like, no, just put out the music, you know.
Yeah, we got Jay-Z, 444 classic, probably the first classic we saw from an older gentleman. And you had Nas on his run recently. I love the first
Exactly.
Magic. This has been
Exactly.
crazy. Who are
Yeah.
who are some people you'd like to see that maybe haven't dropped an album in a minute that are like older that you're like, I think they could come back. Lauryn Hill obviously comes to mind.
To be
She's never gonna
honest,
do it.
like I don't know if I want a new Lauren album. I
Yeah.
just feel like it's just been too long. Like, you know, we get it. Like, I feel like right now, whatever she drops is just gonna be victim to like how long
Yeah.
she's taken. You know, all the antics and all the conversations. It's just gonna
hmm
cloud another project. At this point, for me, she could keep it. At this point.
I feel that. I'm trying to think in my mind of some people because I didn't prepare this question of
Hmm.
who's like older that I'd love to see. Maybe Missy Elliott. Would she drop a cool
I
album?
would
And
I wouldn't mind hearing Missy drop something. I really wouldn't mind hearing that. I
get her on like
really
a
want another album from Jay-Z.
oh, of
444
course.
was when? Like when was that? 20
18,
2018?
18.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
It's kind of
It's
recently.
been at least 6 years. Like, yeah, I wouldn't mind getting something from him because I know he could still rap. Like I know he's still capable. So
He's
I
done a
wouldn't
great
mind that.
job of staying modern and being like up to date with like the young kids in like a non like not cool way.
In a
Like he's
non-corny
been hip.
way.
He's been hip.
Yeah, I feel like yeah. I feel like he's tapped in. Like I wouldn't mind getting like a new like Jay-Z album. Even if this is his last, I still feel like he has one more in
That's
him.
crazy. He said his last album was gonna drop in 2004, and it's like, can you imagine if Black Album was actually his last album?
Hell nah. Like I'm still happy he kept going. Like when yesterday, like it had me thinking when, you know, it was a fake retirement, but
Kanye.
Kanye. I was like, okay, like retiring, okay, I get it, like, but if I knew Kanye's a special case anyway, so I feel like I just leave it at that because he's a special case. Like
He's not.
honestly.
He's too much of a narcissist to retire from the thing he's best at. What he's gonna step
I did, like
aside.
even when I saw it, I didn't believe that news. Like even before it was debunked, I'm like, I don't believe this guy is quitting. Like no, not now.
Nope. So there's certain albums out there that are like the guaranteed classics. Spotify put together a list this year of classic
Yes.
albums. What are some albums for you that are like a cult classic movie? Something that most people will be like, I don't know if that's a classic, but you're like, no, what? This to me is one of the best albums ever.
I feel like okay, I gotta pull off my Spotify for that. I don't want to get roasted because people on the internet could be really mean. Okay, let me see. This is just my taste. Um, so are you saying like classics to me, or just like classics that people
I can
might disagree
I
with?
I can give you an example. Like I don't think this
Okay,
is a classic, but
yes.
to me, this is one of my favorite albums of all time. I think I'll go Dark Sky Paradise by Big Sean.
You know, that's really underrated. I don't see a lot of people talk
See?
about it, but like, and I feel like it's revisionist history because when that album came out, a lot of people were tapped in. Like, I
Yeah,
actually
I
really
love
liked
that
the
album.
album. But like around Big Sean, there's been a lot of like a lot of weird like
Yeah.
revisionist history, and I kind of feel bad for him sometimes.
That album's got hits. His Tiny Desk this year was fire,
Yes,
which really showed how many hits he has. Like,
it does. Like, I feel bad for him a lot of times because I feel
I
like
think he's got a little. The whole Kendrick thing, people are like, oh, of course he drops when like Big Sean announces his book release or something. Because Kendrick's always popping up.
okay,
But
let me
what album do
see.
we got for you?
Albums that I think are classics. Okay, I'm gonna start with The Weeknd, My Dear Melancholy. I feel like a lot of people don't talk about that album, but like to me, that's a classic in my books. Like it's my favorite The Weeknd project. I feel like ever since that, okay, After Hours was good, but like that album to me, I don't see enough people talk about it, and I think it's classic worthy.
I'm a Weekend hater, personally.
Really?
I
I'm curious. Why?
his voice is just like
Oh my
too
God.
clean for me. With I'm not sure if that makes sense, but it's too poppy and like H&M sounding like music. So like someone like Anderson Paak or like a raspy voice usually gets me going more than like his clean cut vocals.
Okay, I'll say that's understandable, but one thing I'd say, like, I feel like The Weeknd, and to me, maybe me and you share the same point of view, but like, I'm not a fan of pop The Weeknd. I feel like
Okay.
when he
Yeah,
goes
yeah.
into his like R&B bag, like the moody, the synth, like the sound that he helped create, to me, that's when I enjoy The Weeknd the most. Like the extremely poppy songs, I'm not a
Yeah.
crazy fan too. So I kind of understand. And that's why I really like My Dear Melancholy because I feel like out of all his projects, it's like the least like poppy. Like it's
Hmm.
just very straight to the point, mellow, very heartbreak focused, and I really enjoy it. Like especially in the winter, it hits really different. Which other
Th-
album?
this I don't know if this is a hot take. I think it's not that hot of a take. Because I think Acid Rap is known as like this classic mixtape, but I think Coloring Book is a classic, and it might be my favorite Chance the Rapper album.
My favorite is still acid rap, but I respect that take. I don't even think it's that hot. Like
It's not hot because it was like the
yeah,
number one album of the year dropped. I just think
yeah, I
we're,
respect
we're talking
it.
about revisionist history for Chance the Rapper. People, if they forget that guy was like he was in the Big Four. Like it felt like
I
that
feel
was
bad for him, honestly. Like like if there's an artist I really feel bad for, I feel like it's him, you
he did it
know.
to himself. If you've ever
I
read the
was having
story
this
about what
conversation with
happened,
someone else, and they said that their theory for why like he quote unquote fell off, and I put that in quotes, but I just feel like when you begin to kind of doubt yourself as an artist, the audience can tell. And I feel like that's what happened to Chance.
there's
Like there was
this
a moment where he just began to like really we could see that he was doubting himself around when Big Day
yeah.
dropped and everything. And like the whole criticism and everything, you could tell that it affected him, you know.
There's a whole story behind the Big Day and how he like was not very nice to his manager and his manager he like announced a release date before the album was done and his manager's like you shouldn't do that because the album's not done and they rushed it to make the release date. So there's a lot of like behind the scenes stuff where it sounds like he did it to himself. But yeah, I mean I feel bad for him because the longer you wait, the worse the album looks. If you give it that time for people to keep hating on it.
Exactly. Especially because it was an album like that, you know, like if you dropped Blonde like Frank Ocean, you could get away with like look at Frank like bruh. This year is what, 8 years? That's crazy, you know. And if you dropped an album like Anti, you know, with Rihanna, like people could be like, okay, you know what, that was a good album to bow out with, but like the Big Day, like you waited too long, in my opinion.
And lastly, I say this all the time on this podcast, Revenge of the Dreamers, which also just celebrated its 5-year anniversary. That to me, the moment it was, the music in it, that's one of my favorite albums ever.
Actually, I agree with that. I completely agree with that. For me, another album I would say, like to me, is classic, and a lot of people don't maybe consider it classic. Passion Pain and Demon Slaying Kid Cudi. To me, that's a classic. To me, that's his best project. Like anyone could
Whoa,
argue
that's a
with
hot take.
me.
That's
Anyone could argue with me on this, but like, of course, the Man of the Moon like trilogy, great. But like, I just feel like there's a pocket. Like he was in on that Passion, Pain, and Demon Slaying. He sounded hungry. You know, he sounded very passionate. And I just feel like since then, he hasn't been able to just achieve that pocket. Like
is
since
that like
that happened.
is that like Surfing on that album? And
Yes, that's the
okay,
one
I
that
was
has
listening
the
to that
most
today.
golden kitchen. You know, surfing. I love that album so much. I love the energy on it.
I think I definitely grew up a Man on the Moon 1 person because Soundtrack to My Life was like my favorite song forever. But then I think Man on the Moon 2 is
That's
probably
fair.
what I would say is the best one.
Man of the Moon 2 is honestly, I would put that directly under Passion, Pain, and Demon Slaying. Like that is my favorite out of the trilogy. Man of the Moon 2. Yeah.
I love
But
Ghost on
yeah,
that album.
just
When
it's just
did
it's
I
just a
become
pity
a...
that I haven't really been like his recent releases haven't really like hit
Something's
for me.
changed.
I don't know if
I
it's
don't know
just
what it
me, it's
is.
just haven't really hit the spot for me.
It's his rapping maybe, or like he's not doing melodies as much as he is like trying to rap. I don't know what it is.
I don't even think it's like the rapping or everything. He just for me like, and I might be wrong, but he just doesn't sound hungry or inspired anymore, you know? Because before I'd listen to Cuddy and I'd be like, I'd always, like, the reason why I loved him and, like, he was one of my favorite artists, I always felt something, you know, when I listened to him. But, like, I just feel like the two
I feel
projects he
that.
dropped this year, it was just like I listened to them and they just felt like almost soulless to some degree.
No,
And
I
I'm
feel
just like,
that.
yeah, this isn't the Cuddy that I'm used to, you know?
So my last question before we go, because I saw you tweet this today, and I've definitely talked about this a lot on here. Album art. People
Yes.
don't put effort into it. People, I mean, we're seeing like Ice Spice being bullied into changing her album art. We're seeing
Yeah.
Meg's album art with the butterfly being kind of made fun of. But it's a
Yeah.
real thing. I'll click on an album with
It's
one
a real
monthly
thing.
listener
It's
because it's
definitely
a
a
really
real
cool album
thing.
cover. And there are albums where maybe I won't listen to it because I'm like, it's just not drawing my attention.
For me, I'm petty. Like I think I'm petty because like for me, album covers matter a lot. I feel like in this day and age, maybe people get away with it. Like it's easier because it's like okay, it's just streaming. You just click on it. But like if you're actually buying music, picture yourself in a record store, like browsing through like. It has to be something that catches your eye, and I feel like the best way to do that is to pick an album cover that like really conveys the vibes of the entire album. You know, there are actually albums that I've just been like, I don't really care for this, you know,
Yeah.
because I see the album cover and I'm like, okay, it doesn't really stand out to me, you know, and sometimes I've been wrong, you know. I listen to it and I'm like, this is good, but
Yeah.
why would you give it this album cover? You know, I feel like it's so important for me at least. Like I don't know about other people, but for me, it's really important for me. I want to see good album cover. For example, let me say D2X. That was the only reason I started listening to him.
Fire
I
cover.
remember like back in 2019, I came across like the cover of The Color Blue. It was on my timeline. I'm
Sick.
just like, what is this? Like, and I really like the cover art. I didn't even know it was an album cover. And I just saw
Yeah.
it was an album and it made me like go listen. That was the only reason why. Like I can't imagine like I probably wouldn't have known who he was if that album cover did not stand out to me. So for me, it is really important.
Yeah, I feel like the Griselda guys killed it with all their abstract art they kind of do, like the Basquiat-esque and like
Like
the
for
white thing on
example,
it.
like Pray for Paris. I love that album cover. Like I see an album cover like Pray for Paris and I'm like, I want to know what's going on. Like the whole David and Goliath scene and like the sword and everything. It's like, yeah, I want to know what this is, you know.
And I feel like in this day and age, it's easier than ever to get good art. There's so many people online
It
who are making the
is.
sickest stuff. So when I see someone make bad art, I'm like, you could go onto one of your favorite Twitter followers and they'd love to make a cooler thing on
Exactly.
Canva for you.
Exactly, especially people that also send me music. Like I'm not even talking about what I feel like well-established artists could get away with it because like for example, let's say I'm a Megan Thee Stallion fan. Like the album cover not being great is not going to stop me from listening if I
Yeah.
already know, if I already like her music. Like, it might be like a turn off for me, but it's not going to stop me from listening. Like, for example, Bryson Tiller, I did not like his album cover, but I still was going to listen anyway because I like Bryson Tiller's music. I feel like he makes good music, so I listened anyways, and the album was good. But like, I feel like for an artist that is not known, is gonna be a huge disadvantage. I get sent music all the time, and sometimes I look at album covers or like song covers. I'm like, why? Like,
For sure.
why is that your cover? Like, I haven't even heard the song, but I don't want to listen. Just seeing the album cover. Sometimes it looks like they just threw something into like paint and just
Yeah.
like did something random. I'm just like, nah. Like, I want
And
to
I
see
don't
something over here.
and I don't have I think it's synesthesia. Is that what Pharrell has where like the songs
This,
sound like a
yeah.
color?
Where you can see like the colors,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's cool when like your I don't know, your album cover is yellow and it just sounds like a yellow vibe. You know what I mean? Like if it fits.
Yeah, it's just like Igor.
Flower Boy by Tyler. You've an Igor. Flower Boy sounds like the orange cover
It
that it is.
does. It does. Tyler, I feel like Tyler is really good at like curating like, a world and that with the album covers. I feel like he's so good at that. But yeah, Flower Boy is a great example because the album actually sounds like what it is. I feel like a lot of artists should really like, take that more seriously. If you're not taking it seriously, especially if no one knows who you are, like just take that seriously, please.
Bring it back, people. Come on.
Yes.
Well, Elsie, thank you so much for coming on the platform again.
No problem. And also, like, yeah. Okay, I'll say this after. But yeah,
I was
no
gonna say,
problem. Thank you for having me.
of course, and I want to give you the space to shout out what you got coming and where people can find you.
Ooh, okay, what do I have coming? I have a lot coming. I have some cool interviews lined up. I cannot say who they are yet, but they are coming. I have content, always putting out content on my TikTok, Instagram, and on my Twitter. If you actually really want to engage with me, my Twitter is the best way to find me. It's also Elsie, not Elise as well. I just put out an interview with Ravyn Lenae. It's on my YouTube channel, also Elsie, not Elise. Go tune into that. I also have several interviews. I have one with ScHoolboy Q, one with D2X, one with Jordan Ward. Just go check all of that out. And yeah, like watch out for a lot more content because like I'm grinding to put out a lot more content. So just any social media that's your favorite, I'm probably on there, and just like yeah, find me and interact with me.
I know we're both Twitter people over other
Yes.
apps.
Yes. That's definitely my favorite app, like easily.
I'm afraid to look at my screen time for Twitter. It would be
I don't
awful.
even bother. Like I'm not gonna do it. Sorry. Like whatever it is, I accept it. Like I'm not gonna bother like looking at my screen
It's
time.
work. I tell myself it's work.
That's what I tell myself. Like for other people it might be leisure, but for me I'm actually working on there.
Yeah.
So and actually I get to earn some money too. So
Hey, I got $16 this month. I'm like, hey, it's a
exactly.
Chipotle bowl right there. Well, if you made it to the end of the episode, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed. You can find me on social media, Adam-_DASH on Instagram, Twitter. TikTok is Soundcentric Music. Instagram is also Soundcentric Music. And yeah, we got some live interviews coming up. So stay tuned, and we got some cool podcast episodes coming up, such as this one.
Yes, I'm actually looking forward to what you guys put out. I always like you have very creative questions that you ask your guests. So I
Thank
kind
you,
of
thank you.
look to you for inspiration for that, honestly. I feel like you do really
Aw,
good.
thank you. Yeah, I mean, I have the same mindset where I'm like, I Nardward someone once, and I'm always chasing that high of getting like the,
Right?
how did you know that? Or that's a good question.
Right.
So thank you again for coming back to the platform, and thank you to the audience for watching,
Thank you for having me.
and we shall see you next time.
All right.
Peace.